morning, everyone. People rely on language for different purposes, for the purpose of communication and other interactions. So as they rely on language, because of their differences in cultures and the differences in their languages, they most of the time experience barriers. These barriers tend to happen and occur in the courtroom situation where you find that there are a lot of people who have different languages and different cultural background. Hence, they have the intention of preserving the law and making sure that the law exists very well. So we are in a courtroom situation here. This research is set out to the lower courts. We have the accused people who speak a different language from the lawyers, the magistrate, who are most of the time English and Afrikaans speaking people. So the lawyers, the prosecutors, they speak a different language from the accused. In that case, you find that there is a loss of meaning that happens when they are presenting their conversation or when they are making interactions in the courtroom situation. In that case, when such thing takes place, there is a miscarriage of law where you can find that the magistrate is misled by the fact that there was a misinterpretation or an inaccurate interpreting or imperfect interpreting. So in that case, the law is not well preserved in that case. So you find that the person who might be guilty in some extent is set free, and the person who is at times guilty is not guilty, is made to stay and serve a sentence that which he does not deserve. So if this is practiced, to find out how this happens, we are setting to evaluate, we are setting to interview interpreters and magistrates, and the interpreters shall be interviewed in different sections, whereby we shall find out exactly the extent of their qualifications and their expertise. We shall also investigate the extent of their the task on time there, so that what is it that makes them to provide inaccurate interpretation. Thank you very much.
A very important topic. I think we've all seen in international media demonstration of the quality of court translation with the Oscar Pistorius case last year. Questions for Sylvia? I just want to follow up on one thing, and then in your presentation you've mentioned you're going to follow up and find this. Have you got findings available yet?
Yes, I went to an observation in one court where I noticed that most of the interpreters, the start level or their qualification for entering in the job is just a matric certificate. With the difference in their cultures and language expertise, you find that it is mostly difficult for one person who is only educated up to the matric level to understand a particular language that is not your indigenous language, and you find that that kind of activity or that practice give a loss of meaning in the magistrate himself. Therefore, he finds himself passing a judgment that is not well-based.
Is this problem recognized by the magistrates and judges?
In an interview with one magistrate, he indicated that most of the time that issue occurs, and he has to make sure that he repeats himself to the interpreter several times until he understands what is it that he's intending to say, so that there is a limited loss of interpretation somewhere along the way.
I assume that you haven't finished your data, But from what you say, is it only a matter of, you think, a qualification of the translators, or you also investigate such things like trust, you know, the trustworthiness of the translator in the sense of not, you know, changing words, you know, spoken and that kind of matter?
It is not a matter of a qualification only, but a matter of understanding one's language background, culturally and linguistically, so that you know, as I want to make an equivalent for a particular source language, I have to understand the background behind the word that I'm supposed to bring up as an equivalent. Supposedly, maybe in our culture, you find that there is a word that has no equivalent at all. And for you to make sense of what you're supposed to say or what you're supposed to mean, you have to have the background. For suppose if an elderly who is illiterate saying, they ask, how many children do you have? He says, so you have to know that that woman or that person is saying he has 6 children. Then you have to make a correct interpretation for that.
Lucina, we've got a question here.
I'll just take my words. I just wanted to find out in your research if you have ever considered the possibility of just using one language. For example, if the accused, the accused, the magistrate, or even the lawyer understand the language. I mean, have you ever considered not just using one language? Because we can't talk about lots of meanings in translation, because all of them know that. I don't know if I'm doing myself. Have you ever thought about that? To eliminate the need for translation where all the legal officers or whoever can speak one language, right?
Unfortunately, that cannot be bypassed because most of the people who are the accused and the witnesses, they're the African illiterate people. And the two dividers, where the prosecutor, the magistrate, and the lawyer and the defense lawyer are on the side of the divide whereby they are representing or preserving the law, makes it even difficult because you cannot say we are going to use one language with an English-speaking magistrate or an African-speaking magistrate and with a Xitsonga accused person there. So one language finds it very impossible to use in a court like that.
Oh, no, I meant if all of them can understand the language. All of them.
Yeah, I think, you know, the current situation, we're a multicultural and multilinguistic language, you know, and we operate in an environment where a single language is never really going to be the solution.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to know, like, why did you start doing the class of lost translations? And from what I understand, usually translation and interpretation are not exactly the same thing, but it seems like you use interpreting as part of translation.
Okay, thank you very much. Translation can mean different things. The difference here is how you do it. Translation a text, translation a process, translation verbally while interpreting. So being lost in translation simply means being lost in, can mean what you are lost in what has been interpreted as a translation from one language to another.
So sorry, just one problem. So did you assume first that they were already lost before you started? Sort of implication there.
I was in another court and the same question came. You know, the investigation that I'm going to make shall refute or defend the hypothesis that how often does translation get lost in the interpreted court trials?
Thank you so much.